Welcome to Dusty Little Wastelanders, written by L.L. Smith, narrated by L.L. Smith. Chapter 7, Message for Foxes. I woke that morning more rested than usual. I knew I needed it. Today was big. I could feel it in the air. This meeting with TJ was going to be something. Our first major step toward getting Kyle back, and maybe even a chance to take it to the slave trade in the process. I was salivating. Or maybe that was just my empty stomach. Donald had woken before me for once. I assumed he was down at the bar, hitting on some rich woman, more than likely. TM was still sleeping like a log in that bed. I got up and crept to the door, attempting to stay silent, as if the creaky floorboards would wake that dead mouse. I exited the room and spilled into the hall. Once on the stairs, I spotted Donald. He sat at a table getting cozy with some honey. Typical. Judging by her lavish furs, long smoking sticks, and overdone hair, I'd say she'd have some money. At least he was smooching over a girl who could prove us useful for once. I'm sure she'd beat his usual company of overused prostitutes, beaten down beggins, and rusty relics. Lester spotted me on the stairs and waved me down. It was a greeting I could get used to. It was too nice, how good we had it here. Couldn't help but wait in the back of my mind for the grand fall. But I couldn't allow my worries to thwart my mission, nor could I get too comfortable with how our life had become. We were here for a purpose, which wasn't cleaning bathrooms for friendly bartenders. I came down to the bar and Esther poured me a glass of water. "Can I ask a favor, Esther?" I asked. "Sure," Esther responded. "Can you look after TM today?" I groaned. "I hate to dump the child on you, but I fear he's more involved in some trouble than myself or Donald really realize. I don't like leaving him alone in places, but I don't want to take him to TJ's either. You just never know." "It's no problem," Esther cheered with a smile. "I'm great with kids." I caught myself. "I mean, you're awesome, Esther, and please, put that kid to work. Make him earn his keep," I said. "We'll see," Esther said. I looked back over my shoulder to Donald and his guest. "Who's that lady?" I asked. "That's Monica," Esther answered. "Just another lonely soul here in Killville. She usually comes by first thing in the morning to talk to me for much longer than I'd like, but Donald seems to be pulling his weight in his own way." "Yeah, well, he enjoys that way too much for it to count as pulling his weight," I vented. "I appreciate you watching TM," I said again. "I need to get us going." I stood from my bar stool and walked to Donald and Monica. Donald had no idea I was headed their way. I slapped his shoulder to get his attention, but he didn't budge. Monica sure noticed. After she stopped engaging in his conversation, Donald finally gave me the time of day. "What gives?" he complained. "We have to go, man," I said. "Monica was just telling me all about her wonderful life here in Hillville," Donald gloated. "Well, Miss Monica can finish her story when we get back," I said. "Can't you just wait 5 minutes?" Donald pushed me aside. "No," I said. "If you aren't coming, then that's fine. I'll go alone." I began my march to the exit. Donald turned back to his woman and then back to me. I watched him in my peripheral vision. He finally got out of his chair and joined me. "You've got to stop cock-blocking me," Donald scolded. "Don't forget why we're here," I rebutted. "Don't you dare accuse me of that," Donald shouted. People in the streets turned their attention to us. "Don't you dare give me that impression," I shouted back with a point. "Whatever," Donald sulked. It was like walking with my folks after being caught lying. Donald and I would walk to TJ's wanting to spout all sorts of hate to each other, but we kept it contained. TJ was posted up in McDougal's backyard, basically. What a better way to keep tabs on your enemy than to post up right in their space. There was a collection of shanties that lined the back of Hillville, right behind McDougal's manor. TJ operated at all these shanties simultaneously. It was rumored that he had begun building up something big to disrupt this slave trade. Whatever he had planned, I wanted in. We had to walk around McDougal's gated compound in order to reach TJ's shanties. We circled the manor, watching the guards with makeshift melee weapons, monitoring the shackled workers. The gardens surrounding the mansion were trimmed to perfection. I bet he had someone with hair scissors trimming at each branch. Today was lawn shaving day, evidently. All the slaves pushed rotating blades through the grass, cutting it to equal lengths. All this work seemed so pointless. Why suffer people through all this just for the sake of a pretty garden? If I ever met Richard McDougal, Lord help his face. I kept my eyes on the slaves, searching for Kyle. He wasn't out there. I checked 17 times over. One of the slaves fell out from exhaustion. 3 guards ran up to him, pummeling him with various blunt clubs. I could hear Daddy's will echoing through my carver. "Cut the bastards! Cut the bastards! Cut the bastards!" Daddy urged. I patted my left butt pocket, attempting to hush Daddy's influence. After a vicious beating, the slave was tossed to the side of the garden and into the gravel path, which from the outside appeared to be a rather nice home. It was another white structure with gold trim. Of course, it matched the mansion. Plenty big enough to house 8 rooms, but I bet they had all their slaves packed into one. It didn't have any windows, didn't want any slaves yearning for the outdoors, I suppose. It looked mighty fancy on the outside, but would function better as a dust-NATO shelter. The guards came rushing out of the shack with another slave in arms. They shoved the slave towards the blade set, and the slave went to work, cutting as though he had always been there. Donald and I crossed to the backside of McDougal's mansion, where we spotted the shanties right off. Their diminished and disheveled appearance was a stark contrast against McDougal's mansion. These crinkled and crumpled shacks that made the rest of Hillville shanties look like spiffy cottages. Hell, these shanties made Stonetooth shanties seem like freshly constructed, livable structures. I was surprised that McDougal didn't have these eyesores condemned or something. We walked toward the row of 8 shanties, ready to form a plan. "They said there'd be a blue chalk line above TJ's door," Donald informed me. I spotted the chalk line and we waltzed right up to the shanty. We knocked on the door and it swung open in an instant. We stood face to face with a young man. He had to be Kyle's age. He had long brown braided hair, a gentle tan face with focused green eyes. He wore strangely revealing brown clothes, an open vest that hung just above his belly button, and shredded pants that dangled just above his bare feet. "TJ?" I asked. "You found him," he spat in a smart tone. "Who are you?" "Enry Duke," I responded. "Can't say I'm familiar with an Enry Duke," TJ retorted. "I wouldn't expect you to be. I'm new in town," I said. "New in town, and you're searching specifically for me?" TJ interrogated. "It's a long story, but I want to help you hit the slave trade," I said. "Shh, don't blab it out so loud that the whole town can hear." "Will you help us?" I asked. "Sorry, I don't just help every stranger on my doorstep," TJ shrugged. "I don't have time to argue," I asserted. "What do I have to do to prove myself to you?" "Have you killed a slave trader yet?" TJ asked. "I like this man's style," Daddy's Carver announced. "No," I said with words lathered in disgust. "I have," Donald chimed in. "Bashed his skull in with a wooden chair." "You're clear," TJ waved Donald in. "Enry's with me too. That's how this works." "Okay," TJ conceded. "The softy can come in too." He waved us inside and we followed. TJ's attitude made me want to plunge Daddy's Carver right into his mouth, but I refrained. His house smelled of herbs, rodents, piss, and shit. He had burned incense, but they needed a stronger scent. I had to play dodge the animal cage while we navigated to the back of his shanty. His small space is crammed full of junk. There was no walkway, just jumping from floor patch to floor patch. There was a round tabletop set up in the back, no legs, no base, just the top of a table sitting on the ground. The tabletop was accompanied by 4 body pillows for chairs. TJ planted himself on the nearest pillow. Donald and I found our way around piles of junk to the next available pillow. TJ pulled out a green leaf pipe, lit it, and took a few puffs. "So, what's your story, dude?" TJ asked in the haze. "People don't just come to my door because they woke up one day and decided they wanted to end the slave trade." I spilled it all over to TJ, starting with Moontown kidnapping all the way up to standing right here before him on this day. He listened intently, puffing away at his green leaf. I couldn't read the man. He listened to my struggles mellow-minded. It could have been the green leaf cloud in his mind, but he seemed with it in all other regards. His entire demeanor seemed too lax to be taken seriously. He laid sprawled out on his pillow with his arms and legs dangling as if they had no bones. He nodded along with the story, seeming to keep up, but he didn't act convinced or interested at all in getting involved, or overly interested at all, really. "Yeah, okay," TJ retorted when I finished. Had he even listened to me? The bastard just watched us between puffs of his pipe. "So," Donald started, "are you going to help us?" "I'm just not buying it," TJ said. "Cut his lips," Daddy urged. "We already killed a slave trader. What else do you want?" I asked, my fist reaching for the carver. "You tell a great story," TJ started, "but I've got no proof of the truth." "We have almost no way of proving that story," Donald explained. "Exactly," TJ said. "What did you expect to happen? You wanted me to say, 'Oh, that's some shit,'" TJ scoffed. "Stories like yours are the exact reason I do what I do," he recited with a waning passion. "I want to do whatever I can to help you get Kyle back. Here's $20. TJ reached into his pocket, handed me 2 tens. I received them with a puzzled expression. I tilted my eyes, studying TJ's level of disconnect. Hillville was introducing me into some true scum, but I could still hear Kyle defending them. He would have found some redeeming quality in TJ, some source of good. Ugh. You see, most people that come to me with a sob story just want some cash. I'll discuss you with all my affiliates. I send out coded messages through messenger rabbits. If my affiliates determine you worth our time, be expecting a messenger rabbit coming your way." "Hold on," I said. "TJ, right?" I asked. He nodded. "And you deliver coded messages by way of messenger rabbit?" I asked, and he nodded. "Does TJ by any chance stand for Tortoise Jr.?" I said. "Oh, so you have dealings with my father." TJ's demeanor flipped. "More like a single run-in," I corrected. "More than a few more pleasant run-ins we'd had lately." Well, you must be good people if you got on Dad's good side. He reached behind him and grabbed a bound collection of papers. He flipped through them. I could hear them crinkle as he turned each page. TJ found his page, turned the book over, and shoved it in my face. Here's my message decoder. Memorize it, and don't give out copies. I tried to make sense of the 2-page decoder, but it was a jumbled mess of word equations written in the sloppiest penmanship I'd ever seen. Slave trader equals fox. That I remembered. Can I hold this? I asked. Take it, study for as long as you like, but it doesn't leave this shanty. I took the book and studied the scribbles more deeply. Donald looked over my shoulder, absorbing the information too. I'll take the right page, you take the left, I suggested. Good idea, Donald agreed. We looked over the book for hours, trying to soak in all them notes. I couldn't decipher whether these were intricate notes or just a madman's scribbles. Math equations flooded the page where one word equaled another. Phrases were jotted in every direction, upside down, sideways, cockeyed, you name it. I didn't even see any way to commit any of this to memory in just a day's time. After the 3rd hour, my brain was overcooked. The scribbles had blurred into one massive ink splotch, and I tried to read through rapid blinks, but I wasn't getting anywhere. I handed the book over to Donald and rubbed my eyes. You can keep going, but I have to stop, I complained. Donald handed the book back to TJ. So I'll need to sign you a rabbit? Where am I going to send your messages? TJ asked. We're staying at Esther's bar. I tried to come up with its name. The name escapes me now. TJ jotted down some notes onto a sheet of paper and put it back in his book. So I'll gather up my affiliates and have a plan conceived for freeing Kyle by the end of the day. TJ closed his book and tossed it over his shoulder. I suppose our running with his dad was credit enough. Truth be told, my plans of hitting the slave trade are just a dream conjured up by this Greenleaf. But your story and your struggle is very real, very tangible, and very fixable. Can I ask you something, TJ? I had to get something off my mind. It had been itching there for a while. Sure, he said. Your father said you loathed him for dealing, but now here you sit indulging in this vapor. Why? I asked. I'm a hypocrite who's too ashamed to face his old man. TJ shrugged. You should visit the man sometime, I said. He misses you. Yeah, TJ groaned. He'd forgive me before I could even say hello, but that isn't what I'm after. I can't face him until I've done something to make him proud, not something for him to forgive me for. Who knows, he shrugged. Maybe saving Kyle is that thing. I hope it can be, I said. Kyle would want it to be. Do you have any intel on mass abductions? Donald piped in. Abductions of children in particular. TJ sucked on his pipe a moment. Moontown's got a real issue with that, TJ said. Their schools just closed and their streets are inundated with orphan children. As far as who's swooping them up and why, that's more of the high officer's agenda. He's kicking pretty hard for the wastelands to get fully registered, and he feels that starts with the children. That makes sense for the abduction of orphans, but we've got groups of people approaching us and attempting to take TM from us, I said. Are the high officer's followers so devoted that they'd steal children from good homes? No, that does sound odd. TJ's eyes shifted. How old is TM? 5, I think. That doesn't make much sense either, TJ announced. There is a huge to-do when Timothy Mowers first came to power, about 12 years ago if I'm not mistaken. He had an estranged son who had gone missing, and Timothy started an all-out manhunt for this child. The details are lost on me since this all happened when I was like 2, and I've only just heard the story once. I think I remember that, Donald said. Apparently Stonetooth was no good on current events because it's all fresh news to me, I said. I don't believe they ever did find the child, TJ remembered. Donald theorized. Do you think these people are acting on an order made 12 years ago? Not in Moontown, TJ insisted. The syndicate operates from there, along with most of the Wasteland's drug trade. Moontown stays up to date with current events. The abduction problem has to be something new and relevant. Thanks for your time, TJ, I said. We should be getting back now. I'll see if any of my affiliates know about these abductions, but at the very least, we'll get a plan to get Kyle back. Thanks, I repeated. We stood and took our leave from TJ's shanty. We navigated back through the mess. I thought I had the path partially memorized by now, but the walk back felt like a whole new experience, as though the mess was alive and shifting while we sat. We broke free of that pigsty shanty and headed back to Esther's. I was ready to check in on TM. I knew he wasn't too much of a hassle, but I still felt like a loser leaving him with Esther. I couldn't tell which felt worse, excluding TM from this gathering or leaving Esther to look after him. Hey you! A voice called out from behind us. We turned to find a frumpy man standing outside of a shanty neighboring TJ's. His balding head shifted and his curled mustache wiggled with his lips. He was waving us back inside while shifting his head around. After a quick glance between each other, Donald and I decided to join this strange man. I overheard the two of you talking to TJ. The man addressed us before we were within comfortable talking distance. Yeah, I said. You planning a rescue mission from McDougal's plantation? Yeah, I agreed.
You have to save my daughter Rita from his compound, the man demanded. She was coming to see me, but has been abducted, I just know it. Wait a second, man, Donald interjected, the irritation thick on his lips. What's in it for us? What? The man asked. You're demanding that we stick our necks out to save your daughter in addition to Enry's brother. We'll need some incentive. Of course, the man shifted nervously. He turned and slammed the door in our face. He's off his rocker, Donald claimed. Yeah, I agree. Say, I thought aloud, that girl in front of us at the registration, wasn't her name Rita? I thought back. It was. Of course Donald remembered. You think they nabbed her in registration, I speculated? If so, then Hillville is a whole new level of shitty, Donald announced. The man's door swung back open in our face. He shoved himself through the doorway, shifting his gaze around. He cradled something in his hands. I didn't care to know what. Here. He opened his hand and presented us with a firing pistol. Now this was something I could get excited about. It only has 5 killers loaded, but it should help you free Rita, and you can keep it too. The man waved it toward me. I snagged it and shoved it deep into my pocket, opposite to Daddy's Carver. The man slammed the door in our face and was gone again. Donald and I turned up with puzzled expressions and moved on. I was now armed with a major difference maker. Kyle's rescue felt closer than ever. We had a plan and the means to execute. I chalked it all up to a successful day. As his loyal disciple, Donald fired up a sermon, it is my duty to inform you that the Lord Hickafu does not tolerate the use of firing pistols. Pulling that trigger will ensure that the Lord will never be on your side again. It's hard to believe that the King Harmafu has ever been on my side, I started. He demonizes the use of firing pistols because the possession of such power changes a man to a god. Hintafu can't handle the competition. Nothing good ever came from the end of a pistol. Donald reached. Yeah? Well, I don't plan to do good things with this pistol, I concluded. We made our way back to Esther's bar as quick and as quiet as starving mice. We weren't keen on making a scene anyhow. Now that I was packing, being discreet was especially important. I already made a scene just being a wastelander and all. I didn't like how the town's eyes were glued to my every step. The firing pistol was stuffed in my pocket with a ragged black shirt draped over it. I could feel eyes against my back. There was no way people were seeing it, and if they tried to take it, I wouldn't let them. But I couldn't afford to waste any of my 5 killers on regular folk. They were reserved for them nasty slave traders. Plus, it'd be a wasted opportunity to use a firing pistol on anything but Kyle's rescue. Not to mention it'd make us fugitives, which would overcomplicate our already complex rescue. My thoughts carried my feet all the way to Esther's. We made it back to Esther's hassle-free and I pulled up onto the bar. Donald broke away and joined Monica at her vacant table. She was at the same table as she was this morning. Surely she hadn't just sat there and waited this whole time for Donald. That was an unimportant detail. My focus was on Esther, who approached me with a serious expression. How did things go? Esther asked. Good. How about TM? I searched for the little guy. Esther guided me with a point and I found him serving drinks to some locals. Say, Enry, Esther said, have you ever seen that boy draw? No, I shook my head. We don't have any pens and paper around most days. Hold on a second. Esther halted me with an open palm. You see this? Esther went to the back room with the mops and returned with a couple of sheets of paper in his hands. I was trying to find something fun to do, and he took a fancy to drawing, so I just let him do his thing. He spread the images on the bar. They're incredible, but also very disturbing. I studied the images. They were professional quality. Professional quality nightmare material, I might add. The first image was a cloaked man with a child in his arms. The child bore a striking resemblance to TM, and he dangled in his arms like a sack of potatoes. The second image featured another TM lookalike holding the hand of a decapitated woman who sat in an incredibly comfy-looking chair. I knew he hadn't forgotten to draw the woman's head because it lay on the ground beside the chair. The third image was a picture of us. I kneeled before TM with a friendly grin. It was the day I'd asked his name, right before the cannibals showed up too. Almost just as I remembered it, only with a single out-of-place detail. TM had a bloody knife held behind his back. From this perspective, Kyle would have been the only man to be able to see the knife, but Kyle held TM's other hand and didn't pay no attention to his back. Was this an accurate depiction of that day? If so, what was the significance of the bloody knife, and where had it ended up? I don't really know what to say about this. I studied them a bit longer. I think drawing might be an alternate avenue of communication for TM, Esther suggested. Okay, but why communicate these morbid things of all things, I asked. I trust you haven't been around normal children in a while, Esther started. Their minds are like this faucet. This faucet is directly fixed to the lake out back and draws water directly from it. A child's mouth is a direct link to their mind and directly draws words from it. These things were most likely foremost in his thoughts and therefore the first thing to come out from the faucet. More complications regarding TM isn't exactly what I wanted to deal with today, Esther, I moped. I know, Esther gathered up the pages, but at least now you know. Know what exactly? I thrust in my shoulders. That he wants to communicate, Esther said. Great, I rolled my eyes. I can figure out this kid after I've gotten Kyle free. I'm only good for one great deed at a time. I can't help but think that he might be linked to what happened to Kyle, Esther theorized. It helps to be aware of these things at the very least. I took a swig of my water, wishing it were something stronger. It was at that point that a rabbit followed a customer through the door. I watched it just sniff around aimlessly. I couldn't believe TJ had already composed a plan. Damn rabbits, I said. I got up and grabbed the bunny. I found the message lodged between its collar and its neck. I let it back out of the bar and hoped it would find its way back to TJ. I opened the coded letter and tried to read it. Seeing more of this code made my eyes cross again. I studied the phrases and tried to decipher the words from memory. This is a stupid system. A meeting, the foxes, Esther, clothes. That's all I could make out. What's it say? Esther leaned in. I think TJ wants to meet here about the foxes after clothes, I stated, assuming that's alright. Yeah, it'll be fine, Esther said. I don't much care for TJ's crazies, but he's a good guy. K2 and I cleaned up the bar, and Esther decided to close up early. He wanted the place to be in good shape for our meeting. Donald slouched around after Monica went home, and TM went back to drawing. The scene was set, the bar was clean, and we were all gathered at a collection of tables, prepared for the meeting. TJ sprang through the bar doors with no one by his side. I watched him, puzzled by his affiliate's absence. He cradled a rabbit in his arms and a piece of paper in one hand. I convinced myself that was the rabbit from earlier and that it had found its way home. You're alone? Esther questioned. My affiliates helped me to come up with a plan, but refused to help without substantial payment. Whatever, I dismissed them. So we'll need 5 people to make this plan work. TJ joined us at the table. I count as 1, so we'll need 4 more. Me, Donald, and TM make 3. I counted and turned to K2. Oh, hell yeah, I'll help. K2 bounced in his chair. Okay then, these are our 5 players. Please state your name as I point to you. TJ started with himself. TJ, then turned his point to me. Enry, I answered. Donald was next. The point, of course, came to TM. That's TM, I said. He doesn't talk. That'll be an interesting handicap to work around. TJ jotted down his name. And K2, K2 announced. Okay, so here's the game. TJ finished jotting down names and jumped into the plan. The auction is 3 days away. 2 people will have to be in the auction pretending to participate. A third will need to be dressed up as a slave, but not chained, of course. Persons 4 and 5 will serve as lookouts. If things go south, they'll be the ones to get us out of here. TJ set the stage. So our auction participants will cause a fuss at the last offer. During their distraction, our disguised individual will need to sneak onto the wagon and post up with all the sold goods. Once he's in place, the distractors will leave. The auction will finish up, and once finished, the wagon will be transported to the slave quarters where our man will be dropped off. He'll sneak through the place, free Kyle, and get the heck out. The remaining 4 of us will wait on the other end of the fence, ready to help their escape in any way we can. At any point during this auction, those posted as lookouts may have to do something drastic to get the heat off of us if we're discovered. TJ finished giving the details. I could prepare some fireballs to throw if things go south, Esther offered. That'd put the slaves being auctioned off in danger, as they'd be bound and unable to escape the flames, TJ warned. Yes, but the distractors will need something to distract with, K2 piped in. Maybe leave the fire bottles as an absolute last resort, TJ conceded. I'll be the one who goes in to save Kyle, I volunteered. And TM has the eyes of a starved vulture. He should be a lookout. I'm fairly certain I can create a masterful distraction, Donald volunteered. Me too, K2 volunteered. Well, there's our plan, TJ announced. The kid and me will play lookout while Donald and K2 are on distracting duty, allowing Enry to sneak into the slave wagon. Everyone clear on their role? TJ scanned the surrounding heads. We'll see how the plan plays out. TJ jumped from his seat and left. We watched him leave, a bit puzzled by his brief briefing. The night was old and so were we. Everyone dispersed to their rooms and crashed for the night. The next 2 days would be prep for the auction. I wasn't sure what more preparations could be done, but I was sure something would come up. TM took the bed again. He continued with his ability to fall asleep in an instant. I thought he might miss stargazing, but he seemed to sleep better without it. Donald and I crashed on the floor again, ready for another sore muscle morning.
End of Chapter 7.